Bushwhack. A sudden loss of vibrational altitude. I like that. Bushwhack is what you experience when contrasting event triggers a pocket of discordant energy within you that abruptly interrupts your I call that being hit with a spiritual 2x4 from big to small, like a plane that's cruising along, suddenly loses altitude. Have you read this book? This book is great. It's called The Flow Factor by Christy Whitman, and it's Christy Whitman. She's popping up on my screen like sunshine from Arizona. Don't you just love it when the universe lines up a FaceTime with someone you admire from afar?
Hi, Joy.
I know what to say, right? Christy, I feel like I should be asking you to autograph my Kindle. Welcome to Million Dollar Lightworker.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you.
You know, I love being able to see you in FaceTime. I know we haven't officially met, but you know, I've followed you for quite some time. I love your earlier books. I feel like we're like girlfriends who just haven't had our coffee date yet.
It's interesting. I'm doing a book signing tonight, and I've known Kelly Sullivan Walden for 15 years, and I feel like we're soul sisters, but I get to actually meet her in person for the first time. So it's so much fun when we have this digital world, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm just curious. I'm in Missouri, and you're in Arizona, and you know, we get to experience completely different weather patterns, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. It's hot and sunny here. We just had a big monsoon the other day. It was like this big haboobi or whatever they call it, where it's like a wall of sand that just it's amazing. It looks just like a wall is moving in. It's crazy.
Yeah, you know, and I want to know where they came up with that name. I mean, haboobi, like serious? Haboob. Oh, so just so you know, our sound engineer and musician, Randy, is a complete weather geek. So he's over there like all excited that we're talking about weather.
It's called a haboob. I like haboobi better.
I know, me too. I think we should change this, you know?
Right.
Okay, so I've got a question. I've been enjoying your book. Thank you so much. I got it in the mail today, but it's not out until fall. How did that happen?
Oh, well, you're one of the lucky ones that got it sent to you from the publisher. So I'm glad that it's in your hands and that you're getting to read it. But yes, it comes out September 23rd. So
wow. Well, I am really excited to dive deeper into it and hear what you have to say about the flow factor. I thumbed through it a little bit, and I think that you and I are definitely on the same page. You know, in fact, I have to kind of laugh because I'm sure that you've now gone through the whole thing about, you know, balancing kids and business and being a spiritual CEO, right?
absolutely. You know, years ago, someone told me, you can't have it all. And I said, why? That's stupid. That's accepting limitations, arguing for our limitations. And I even had someone tell me the wise words of Oprah Winfrey. Well, Oprah says that you can have it all, just not all at the same time. And I said, still, that feels really limiting. I believe you can have it all, because having it all is not doing it all. And so I did. I had a multi-million-dollar business. I was raising two kids that were 16 months apart. Really just romantic and very supportive love relationship with my husband, and spiritually connected, and tons of friends, and health in my body. So you can have it all and all at the same time, because having it all is not doing it all.
I love that. I really do. I know my daughter, I just actually had my first, well, I didn't have her, but my daughter had my first grandbaby.
And your grandma.
I am, and I was so excited going through the process with her. And the most amazing thing happened. So I've always been an entrepreneur, and I've owned several businesses. And she grew up with entrepreneurial parents, and I think that she and my son both decided there's no way I'm going to be an entrepreneur, because at that point I was trying to do it all and have it all. But then in the last, I'd say decade, I learned a little bit more about balance. And it was so beautiful, Christy, because at some point, after about 2 weeks, she's realizing she's got to go back to work. And she came to me and she said, I think maybe I do want to create my own business and do something where I have more control of my time so that I can have it all. And I thought, that is the biggest compliment she could pay me right now.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
So
you rubbed off on her, Joy.
I hope so, I hope so. So, Christy, what does buying back your time mean to you? And I mean beyond just being more productive. What freedom does that afford you as a spiritual entrepreneur?
Well, to be able to wake up when I want to wake up, to be able to not just have to rush into my day is a really great way of buying back my time. The biggest thing for me, though, is owning my calendar. There is nothing that goes on my calendar that I don't enjoy doing or people that I don't enjoy doing it with, whether it's some coaching or doing healing sessions or just activities. I've really learned in the way of balance is creating boundaries. And so, there are tons of things that could come at us. And if something doesn't feel like it's going to be joyful in doing it, I say no to it. And that was something that I really had to learn how to do is because most of us don't want to disappoint other people, or we don't want to, have others upset with us, or, those type of things. And I just had to get really clear on what's a yes for me and what's a no for me. Because buying back our time, it's really like, we don't get time back. You could always make more money, you could always do other things, but our time is precious. And so for me, it's like, how am I spending that time? Who am I spending it with? What am I spending it doing? That's absolutely necessary for me. I want to love every part of my day. And so I'm the one that controls it. And, early on, even 10 years ago, when The Art of Having It All came out, it was interesting because I loved what I did so much. And I had small boys and, a supportive husband and friends around and all these things. But I was working so much because I loved what I did. And it got to a point where my body just got so run down and I got pneumonia. And that was a moment in time that, my boss, meaning me, has to be nicer to me. Right? Because on the calendar, oh, I could fill that whole thing up and fill every moment of every day, 7 days a week, 30, 31 days, 28 days a month. I could fill it up, but I needed to be kinder and nicer to myself. And so that's how I had to buy back my time. I had to put in time for reflection when I have a session with a client, to put in time to go eat a meal, have a glass of water, run to the bathroom, just take time to just reconnect. And so these are ways that I buy back my time.
I love that. I believe it or not, there was a time in my life when I actually had to set an alarm on my phone to remember to eat and to drink because I would get so absorbed by what I was doing in my work that I would just forget. And the next thing I knew, I was lightheaded or, I was dehydrated. And it's funny that you say that because I remember, again, talking about pregnancy, right? When I was pregnant with my second child, the one that just had a baby, my daughter, I remember I was experiencing some health issues and my doctor said, you really need to slow down. And I said, well, I can't, I've got my own business. And he said to me, yeah, I know your boss is a jerk, right? And that was the time that I realized that, just like you said, that, wait a second, who's in charge here? I mean, isn't that one of the benefits of being the CEO of our own business, is we get to make those decisions. So was there a time, or was it always this way for you, or was there like kind of a line in the sand when you had to unlearn to actually grow your spiritual business in an aligned way, like what you're talking about?
Yeah, it was a good 10 years ago because I had, just a really successful business. Everything was going well. 2 books that hit the New York Times. I mean, things were blowing up. And yet I didn't have the time for me. And I needed that time, especially because I am a spiritual teacher and I teach about light. And, it's like I could easily connect with it, but my body, especially as I'm getting younger, but I'm not, in age. I need more time. I want more downtime. I want and crave more connection time. And, in my 40s, I could just go, 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 go kind of thing, especially in my 30s. And, for me, it was hardwired into me that if you want to be successful, you need to work hard. And, that was true for my dad. And he was the hardest working person. He also was an entrepreneur. He was a mechanical engineer and had his own business and worked for himself. So, I saw him working hard. I saw him up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting to the office at 6 and coming home after, 7 or 8 o'clock, sometimes later when he had a deadline, and working through the weekends many times. And so I learned that it's like, you got to just give everything you've got like a slave to your business in order to have what you want. And around this time when things shifted for me, it's like I can still have what I want. I can still have it all, and yet I can have time for me. And so that was a really big thing that I had to look at, what are the things that I'm not enjoying doing that I want to do less and amplify the things I enjoy doing more, because then I'm in alignment with abundance. Because one of the biggest fallacies is that if you want to be successful, you have to work really, really hard. Flow, we're talking about the flow factor, right?
Right.
Flow happens and we have access to it, but if we're misdirecting it in a bunch of different ways, it's not necessarily going to reap the rewards. So flow happens when we feel good about something that we're putting our energy into, and those things that don't feel good, we want to stop doing them, because it's like if you have a hose, right? You got so much momentum of that water going through a hose, but if you have holes in it, you're going to have the water leaking out, and you're not going to have that thrust of, that water going into where you're directing it. They're going to be leaky holes, and you just don't have the same effect. So that's always, for me, it's like a gardener that needs to prune every once in a while, is just to take some self-reflection and say, what's working, what's not, what's taking a lot of my energy, but maybe isn't something that I'm, having a reward from, and stop doing those things.
Yeah, I amen to that. I mean, working longer does not equate to more success. And I mean, it's like trying to flap harder to make you fly higher, right? What really is lifting you up is alignment and, not just the extra effort. And, it's funny because my husband and I were actually talking about this recently, maybe a couple of decades ago. So I'm seeing this with the younger kids, especially the millennials. They're not willing to do what we did when we were their age, because I think that they just realized that that wasn't the way to do it, that it didn't have the payoff that they were looking for. And we were joking because I don't know if you went through this, but when I came from corporate America, and when I was in corporate, it was like a badge of honor to say, I only sleep 4 hours a night. Well, that's ridiculous,
Yeah.
Once I met my husband, I realized, he would say, I love naps. And I was like, oh, it's okay to love naps. Like I had to give myself permission to love naps.
Yeah, it was a badge. I was in corporate America for 15 years, and the same kind of thing. You get rewarded if you bust your butt, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of millennials, they're willing to put their energy into something that reaps a reward, but not at the expense of feeling good and playing. And so if all the ladies, for example, could learn from us ladies and how we learned from, the ladies before us, I think that's a great thing. I mean, we're always learning and applying from hopefully different generations, and being able to, you know, live our lives the way we want to, not by how people say we should.
Right. I don't have you ever seen that movie On the Basis of Sex?
I haven't. I've been meaning to see that,
Oh
but
my gosh. It's I always forget her name.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the judge. And it's her like coming up and having her younger daughter, who is, a baby boomer, basically talk to her about her rights. And it is a great movie on how the generations have shifted over the decades. It's a beautiful story.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So in what ways have you noticed that, I know that you coach, right? You're a teacher. You work with a lot of individuals as well. Have you noticed that spiritual entrepreneurs fall into the trap of overgiving? Like, how do we shift from that?
Yes. So I've been coaching coaches. Have certified over 3,000 law of attraction coaches since 2008. And so I do coach a lot of people and a lot of what I call light business, people. And I have a light business mentoring group that I do. And it's a big thing where we have to understand we are an energy receiver. We're always receiving an energy, and we're an energy container. And we're also a transmitter of energy. That's the universal laws, like law of attraction. We're sending out, what we send out comes back. But the thing is that most people that are light workers, they want to give everything they have, and then they don't have anything else. So I always like to say, give from the saucer, not the cup. You're giving from the overflow, because when you can fill yourself up and you feel good within yourself, you give from that place. But it has to be just like the rhythm of our breath, it has to be a receiving and a giving, a receiving and a giving, just like the ocean, right? The waves go in, the waves go out. When we're trying to give, we don't have anything left for ourselves. So you can't really give away what you don't have. If I was going to say to you, hey Joy, can you lend me $1,000, and you didn't have $1,000, you can't give me what you don't have, right? It goes for
Right.
energy too. If I'm asking for compassion or attention and you're just depleted and you don't have any compassion for yourself, how are you going to give me compassion? So this whole idea of I got to give everything I got, it's important to give, right? But then you also need to be able to receive as well. And sometimes we need to keep things for ourselves. I did a pilgrimage when I was in the south of France a few months ago, and I went where Mary Magdalene was. I channel her, and I was directed to go to these different places, and I took these incredible pictures. And I was doing a virtual online goddess retreat, and I was showing the ladies, some of the pictures. And one of the women said, "Can you send that to me?" And I checked in with Mary, and she's like, "No, don't send. You could show them, you could share it, but you don't need to send that to them. Please don't post it." So I didn't post most of my trip on social media and things like that, because that's for me. It's sacred for
Yeah.
me. And so we get to keep what's ours, right? We get to have some for ourselves. That's part of being abundant. If we're giving away everything that we got, then we're not abundant either.
Yeah, I love that answer. We have to remember also, I think, that modeling is giving too. So when you're living your life in a way that really fills up you and fills up your soul, then that's also modeling, and that's also a gift for others, because it's teaching them just what it might look like. And a lot of people need to see that first. So
Absolutely.
that's great. Okay, so how we're going to get into a little tech talk here. Christy, how do systems and automation in your business, and I think probably with your team, I'm guessing you have a team, that
do.
actually create more space for creativity, your own creativity, and the soul aligned work that you're doing?
It's huge. I mean, I remember, gosh, it's been 18 years that I went, almost 19 years that I went full time in my coaching business. I've been coaching and I've been a light worker even longer than that. And I remember trying to do it all myself. And there were things that I didn't want to learn, because I didn't want to learn how do I upload a video and download a video. I didn't want to get into the techie part of it, because I wanted to stay in my lane. And early on, I was really clear, okay, my genius is in coaching, is in healing, is in teaching, is in writing. That's my lane. That's my gift. That's my genius. My ability to help somebody go from here to there, to transform, whether they're reading a book, whether they're in a course, whether I'm giving them a meditation. That's my jam. All the other stuff, and it doesn't feel good. And I remember one of the aspects of the business, if you're in business, you have to know what your numbers are. You have to know what bookkeeping you have available and stuff. And I remember early on doing the bookkeeping, and I thought to myself, I would rather sit here and pluck out my eyebrows one by one than actually do because it was painful. And I mean, I want to see my numbers, but I want someone else to do it and then show me the report. I don't want to have to collect all the receipts and look at all the different reports and all those kind of things. Same thing with the tech stuff, like doing my websites. I know some people in this industry that do their own web stuff too. And I'm like, I don't want to know that. I mean, it's good to know it if you feel like you want to know it. But for me, it was like, that's going to just take away. So I remember being very, very hesitant to hire my first virtual assistant. And, it was the idea in my mind that I had to hire her full time and I wasn't making that money yet. So how was I going to pay someone? But it was great because I could just hire her for like an hour or two a week just to start out, just like the bookkeeper. And so for me, what I noticed was when I didn't have to pull my numbers and run reports myself, and the bookkeeper was doing that, that freed up time. And this person was making $20 an hour, whereas at the time I'd be making $200 an hour, say with a client. So it makes more sense for me to do something, number one, that I have resistance to doing because it's going to pull my entire energy field down if I know I've got to do it. Just even thinking about I got to do it is already pulling, my energy down. So knowing that that's in somebody else's hands, my energy stays up, it stays expansive, and I know it's going to get done because it's delegated. So the biggest thing as a success in my own business is delegating those things that don't feel good, that I know drain my energy, that I know that if I do it, it's going to take longer than if a bookkeeper or someone that's trained in tech, it's going to take me more time, less energy, and then I'm not going to have that energy for and focus for the things that I love to do, the things where I am genius. So setting up systems, having those people to help you with the things that you definitely don't want to do but must do. It's a part of the business. You'll be amazed. I was amazed at how my time freed up, how my energy freed up, and really that I loved even more of what I did because I didn't have to do the extra stuff that I didn't enjoy doing.
That's one of the things that I also teach in Million Dollar Lightworker is that you've got to stay in your brilliance zone. That's really what you're here to do. And somebody else's brilliance zone is the tech. They love, or the accounting, they love that piece of it. And, maybe I think this would actually be good for our listeners to hear is one of the things that I've noticed with people when I'm coaching them is that they have sometimes a hard time getting past that point of, no, you're not like giving up your income to hire this person. You're actually hiring this person to leverage your time so that you can make more money. So 1 + 1 = 3 idea, right?
Yes.
Did you ever have to go through that process of like convincing yourself, okay, well, if I have X amount of dollars and I give them part of it, then I'm going to have less versus I'm actually going to have more because I'm trusting this?
That's just it. I mean, that example, just even the idea of someone cleaning my house, right? I know the way I clean my house, and having a like house cleaner come, it's like that person is taking those 3 hours of time or however much time it takes, and that person or team of people, I'm paying them, but during that time, I'm able to spend that quality time with my kids. I'm able to have another client or do a podcast interview. I'm able to do other things that are in my genius or is something that I love to do rather than clean my house. So it makes so much more sense for me to pay someone that can do a great job. And that way I feel good when I'm not depleted. I just cleaned the whole house. I got no room, no space or energy for my kids and or my business. And so, there are these things exactly. It's like I said, when I first paid my bookkeeper $20 an hour, she's off pulling my numbers, but I'm making, I'm profiting at this time because now I'm $1,000 per session. But at that time, it was $200 to do a session with me. So it's like I'm paying her $20. I'm still pocketing $180.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense to me to do that than me trying to take the time to do something that doesn't feel good. So I'm still winning. I'm still profiting.
Yeah. I mean, who would argue with a 10x multiple?
Right.
I mean, it only makes
Yeah.
sense. And I would also say, on the other hand, like something that you mentioned, the things that you love to do. Like, for example, I love to garden, so when I can get out in the garden, I love to do it. However, if my time is such that now not getting out into the garden is starting to stress me out, the first thing I'm going to do is hire someone to come in so that when I look out in the garden, at least it looks like I was out there doing something very productive.
Yeah, it's a get to, not a have to.
Right.
You want to go out in the garden, not because you have to, and then you're like guilting yourself that, oh, great, the weeds are growing and I really got to get out there. Now it takes away from what you love to do. Being in the garden is something that you love to do, but not a, I always tell my husband, he does most of the cooking in our house, and I'm a great cook. I make great food. My kids love when I cook, but I don't want to have to cook. I want to love to cook. I want to do it because, hey, I feel like making pasta sauce tonight. And then everyone's like, yay, she's making sauce, right? My husband is happy to do the daily cooking, but I don't want to feel like I have to do it. I want to do it. And when I do, it's fun to do.
Yeah, you sound like we're in the same household, because if I hear myself say gotta, need to, should, have to, I get to pull back and see what's really happening here. And like, as far as cooking in our household, if I love to cook too, but if my husband didn't cook, we just would never eat. So,
or eat out all the time.
Yeah, that's right. So he cooks because he likes to eat every once in a while.
Right? Eating is a good thing. Yeah, it's what you just said, Joy, is really interesting, because for years ago, and I'm talking a while now, I created watchyourwords.com, because many of the words and phrases you just said, people say to themselves. Words like should, have to, try, miss, got it, that all those words. I created a 30-day free program. You can, put in the show notes. You can go there. It's watchyourwords.com. But you get a video every day that are 2 to 3 minutes in length, and it tells you what not to say, why, and what to say instead, because these are the sparks. I mean, it said in the Bible, in the beginning, there was the Word. Right? And the Word was with God. Now, when you're having words that are fulfilling, that are positive, that feel good, that are expansive, that are creative, because that's what God is, the creator, then you feel good. But if you're saying things like should, or I have to, or I've got to, or I miss, or I can't, these are words that are not of alignment. And when we are speaking, those are like, they're literally like fire starters, right? They start the energy. They create the thoughts that come after it. And what do we know about thoughts? Thoughts that are thought over and over again become beliefs, become images, pictures, imagination, and then that becomes our reality. So we need to watch our words, because when we change the words that constrict us to I got to, right? The whole entire system and how we feel also goes down with that word, and we become very, very constrictive instead of expansive. So, ooh, tonight, right, when I go to pick up my kids, I get to go pick up the boys today from school. I'm not like, oh, I got to go pick up my boys. I
Right.
get to. I love that. I love spending time with them in the car. That's the time I get with them now. They're teenagers, right? So it's like, that's my time. I get to. I'm so excited I get to. And it's a very different frequency, and therefore then a very different manifestation.
I love that. And I like to say, don't should on yourself,
Yes.
because when you're shoulding, it's it's the same sort of feeling. Is that I think that if people would stop, well, how do I want to say this? we get into the habit, we aren't really paying attention to it. And I don't think that anyone is doing it because they're purposely trying to self-sabotage. I think a lot of people have, these habits that have been ingrained in them, and they haven't really even thought about, what that is creating. And once you do think about what that's creating, then you have the opportunity to choose a completely different way to take it. And, it's just so much more powerful to feel that control, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not to blame yourself for saying these things because you didn't know. But once you know, now you can make a choice. And that's what the flow factor is really all about, too, is that, we are the ones that choose. And whether it's our words, our thoughts, our emotions, the perspectives that we hold, and the actions that we take, we are the ones that choose. And we have that ability. But if we don't know something, how can we choose? We're not empowered by it yet. I mean, could have a conversation with my mom and she could say should 10 times in a sentence. Feels like it should, and it's like guilt, right? And it didn't, I know from growing up and having conversations with her, that doesn't feel good to receive. When someone's like, you should do this, right? It's like, don't shut on me. It doesn't feel good, right? So why are we doing that to ourselves? Because we can't control our mom or our dad or our sisters or our brothers or our bosses or neighbors or anybody else. But we can choose for ourselves, because we all have free will and choice, what we say to ourselves.
And I think it's great when we can choose people around us that can gently remind us, because sometimes you get into a low energy place, right? And
yes.
You're either, sometimes you're not even aware of it. You might get tired or you didn't eat properly or whatever, right? And in those moments, it's really great to have somebody. I know I have like a group of friends around me that will look at each other and say, is that really what you want to create? Like just to rethink maybe where your head is at that moment.
It's important to be able to go, you're kind of talking about lack there for a minute, buddy. I mean, I do that with my husband all the time. I'm like, really? Do you want to create more of that? And he's like, no, you're right, Or he'll say to me, hey, you just got the phone with your mom, so your energy is a little low. And I'm like, yeah, I need to take a time out. I need to go fill myself up and recalibrate myself. And it's good to have friends and family that can help you be accountable. And if you don't have friends and family to help you be accountable, that's why you listen to this podcast. That's why you hire coaches. That's why you do the inner work and read books and all that, because we are so blessed at this time and space. I mean, my mom didn't have conscious, books on her coffee table. She didn't go to goddess weekends and listen to podcasts. She might have had a different life if she did and had access and willingness, too. But we have this access now, and it's many of the things are free to access.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Christy, is there anything that you would like to tell our listeners? Anything more, maybe about the book or anything else before we sign off here? It's, I think that you have a wealth of information that people can pull from. I mean, just bringing up the website about the words is wonderful.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been doing this work personally for about 35 years, and I've been teaching it ever since my first book came out and I became a coach. And I'm a law of attraction coach for 25 years. And so when this idea or when any book comes to me, it comes from a higher place. It's not like I go, hey, I'm going to go on my computer and write a book, right? It downloads through me. There's an inspiration that comes through me where it's like, I can't stop myself from doing it. I don't want to because it feels so good to do it. And I had a university come to me that wanted to give me a PhD in my public works. And so I started that process. And the question that they asked me was, what haven't you said yet? And the thing that is the thread through all of my 7 books is that it's all about universal laws and manifestation and working with light and energy to create what you want. And the biggest thing that I didn't talk about yet, though, and I now am in the flow factor, is that contrast, meaning what we do not want, happens all the time. but it's our reaction to the contrast that's optional. So we can resist the contrast. We could push from the contrast. We can run away from the contrast. We could sit there in freeze mode from the contrast, because that's part of our makeup as human beings. We're part animal. We have the same ability to fight, flight, freeze as a bunny in the desert or as a elephant, right? It's like we all, as a turtle in it going into its shell, we have that ability. It's part of our brain makeup. But when you learn how to navigate the contrast from an empowered place and get back into flow, whether it's someone says something rude to you, someone posts something rude, whether you stub your toe, whether your tire gets flat in your car, whether you get criticized, how do you get back in the flow of who you really are and what you really want? And that's what the flow factor is really about, is not to think that everything, when I first learned about law of attraction, I was like, oh, my life's going to be perfect from this day forward. And I remember I was supposed to take a flight and my flight got delayed. I was like, oh, I know about law of attraction. How could this happen? I mean, it's like it's supposed to be perfect. Contrast happens. And when you just get so upset about the contrast, like I used to, it's like, oh, it's supposed to be perfect, it's supposed to flow all the time. Why am I manifesting this? And then I beat myself up. What did I do wrong? What was I thinking about? When you understand that contrast happens and that contrast is actually a gift, because for many times, contrast is the beginning of a manifestation process, because it's when we focus on or have an awareness of what we don't want, whether it's an emotion, a thought, or a physical manifestation, then we can say, okay, what do I actually want? What do I want? Why do I want it? And how do I want to feel? Because once we can have that awareness, the feeling state, the vibrations, whatever it is we're wanting, that exists right now. I don't have to go get it. I didn't forget it anywhere. It exists for us. Flow is who we are. It exists. It's light, it's energy. And we as the human beings, because of our free thinking minds, right? Our free will and choice. When we focus on something, it becomes. So instead of pushing against that, fighting or just freezing or even running away from it, we can flow with it and then guide our focus and attention on what we do want and reap the benefits of that.
I have to share something with you that happened to me personally recently about exactly what you're talking about. So I got a warranty for my home appliances. We live in an older home that we're remodeling. And it was one of those things where, you have 30 days, you buy the policy, and then you have 30 days that it's not in effect. And then 31 days you can, you can use it. And so day 33, the water heater goes out. Day 36, the HVAC goes out, right in the middle of the heat of the summer, right? And this is like the human part of all of us, right? So at first I'm thinking, why is this happening to me? And then I'm realizing, wait a second, I bought the warranty. Like I should be grateful, that I had enough forethought to actually, or enough intuition to actually buy it in time to cover all of these costs that we had. And then, to turn it around to realize, shoot, it's like I'm going to have a brand new, all brand new appliances in my house by the time the HVAC and the water heater get put in. But it does take a second, to like suddenly turn it from it's happening for you instead of it's happening to you.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't understand why things happen, but we
Right.
can look for the blessings in them. We built a beautiful dream home, in Scottsdale. And we were going one day to just kind of look at everything as, going through the stages of building this house. And we walk in one day and it was weird because the the garage door was up, and I thought, well, that's kind of odd. And we walk in, and all the appliances, the microwave, the dishwasher, the stove, it was all gone. And so I called up the builder and I'm like, did you guys take the appliances out or something? And they're like, no. And someone came in and stole it, right?
Oh,
So I just
wow.
sat there and I said, you know what? I hope that whoever stole it because they needed money to feed their families.
Yeah.
And that there was a really good reason that they did it, and that they benefit, or their families benefit in a way, and that we get our appliances, and the builder replaced them and everything, and they've got insurance and all that. But there's always a different perspective to hold. So because when we go into, and I talk a lot about this in the flow factor, when we go into victim mode, why is this happening for me? Why is this happening for me? I don't want this. Why did they steal my stuff? Right? We're in victim mode, which is it's one of the lowest vibrations. We get in this place of, it's happening to me. And instead we can say, all right, I don't know, but I can have compassion for myself that this doesn't feel good, and hope the best, right? Change the
Right.
perspective. And that's what flow does. And it gets us out of that fight, flight, freeze. It gets us out of that drama triangle of needing to rescue people or beat ourselves up or beat other people up, mentally, or being just a victim that nothing I ever do turns out. No matter what I do, I can't lose weight. No matter what I do, I can't earn more money. I can't get the success that I want. Ask me how I know. Right? It's like we have the power to change that and not be a victim anymore. And that's by getting back into flow. So that's what I hope the flow factor does for each of you.
Yes. And I have my copy here. I'm so excited to dive into it. And Christy, it's been such a pleasure meeting you and chatting with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do in the world. I love, what I loved when I was invited to be on your podcast, I was like, yes, because Million Dollar and Lightworker usually don't go together. And I was like, yes, somebody gets it. So we are definitely soul sisters. I appreciate your spreading your light in the world, and just having these enlightened conversations so that more people that work with light, that know that they're a light worker, that they're a spiritual being, can have abundance in your life while you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Christy, I'm going to let you get back to one of the most light-filled areas of the United States, and that's Arizona with all the sunshine right now, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here. Big hugs. Let's do this again really soon.
I would love to. I've got a lot more to talk with you about, so I would love to.
And for all of you light workers out there, remember, my mission is to elevate 100 light workers to $1 million to have a massive impact on the world. And if you believe that's you, book a discovery call with me as soon as possible. The link is below. It's solopreneur, SOULOPRENEUR.com/discovery. Talk soon.